Hi everyone, how's it going? I'm gonna put some music on because I feel like relaxing a little bit. I just did a reading today, and by the way, you should really catch my website. I've created a website now called Empress Justice Tarot. It's got everything on there, well, almost everything on there, not everything. So you should go ahead and check that out. I'm gonna show you what the site looks like. Let me see. Oh, hang on. I'm going to show you what the site looks like briefly. Internet should come on. Sorry, there's a fly near me. Let me just see, is it on? Yep. So this is the website. I'm going to leave a link for that in the description. So it's just a little project that I've been doing. That's the home page. That is where you can book a reading. Yeah, like, so there's lots of good stuff on here, and I've made some links to my online forecasts over here. I'm gonna update this one because I'm going to update this one because I've just dropped a new lunar forecast. So yeah, I've got a website up. The website name, domain name, has a typo in it because I actually own domain names, but you've got to link the domain names, and finding the money to be able to do that and to still maintain the features of my website is a little bit tricky. So that's what I'm focused on doing. I'm focused on raising money for a domain name for myself to connect the domain name. So that's what I'm doing right now. And yeah, so I'm working on the website, like I'm working on getting more customers in. I've also got Black Brighton Market coming up. And, you know, because of my perp's handiwork, this is what I'm left with, all these fucking scars and shit from itching. What I think the perps did while I was out of the house was, at one point they put itching powder on my stuff. And I think that's partially the reason why I was itching so much. I literally thought it was bed bugs or whatever, but I don't think it's that. I think it's a combination of weapons and some form of itching powder that's been put in my home. So yeah, this is what my skin looks like now because of the constant itching. And plus, like I said before, you can, you know, there are about thousands of brain signatures. There are thousands of brain signatures. One of them can definitely recreate itching. So yeah, so this is what I'm going to be looking like, apart from the bonnet, because I'm going to have my hair done. This is what I'm going to be looking like when I go to Black Brighton Market, unfortunately. But I am going to be there, and I am going to be offering readings for £20 for 15 minutes. So if you want to come through, if you're a local Brightonian and you're a TI and you're not crazy, please come along. And the reason I say not crazy is because you know how some TIs are, like, just about tarot and stuff like that. So yes, come along. If you're not doing anything on Saturday, you come along, do your thing. I'm sure the perps will find some more itching powder or whatever the fuck it is they do. I don't know. But come along on Saturday. I'm going to be there until 6. That's how long the market is. It's 12 till 6. So I'll be there until 6. And also I've got that website up. So I'll leave a link in the description so you can go check that website out. It's been a while since I've talked about the gang stalking. It has been a while. I have had a lot of weapons being fired on specific parts of my head. Namely, I'm thinking about which parts of my head have been fired on. It's namely the front and the back, which is the cerebellum. Although I have had weapons fired at this side of my head before. They seem to like firing at the left side for some reason. I'm not sure why. So they have definitely been damaging my brain and causing brain fog and all the rest of it. They've definitely been firing at certain places on my body. Like I said, the itching is partially the electronic weapons. I thought I had insects in my home, but yeah, that's not the case. I've been itching like mad because of the weapons and because of what the perps have been doing whilst I've been out of the house. And I think they put some itching powder around the house while I was out, because they're always in my flat whilst I'm out. They're always in. So I think that's why I've been getting itches and stuff like that. So yeah, it's bad. But you know, I think the itching was supposed to drive me crazy, but it didn't work out. So what the perps have moved on to is, first of all, they've made the stairs a mess. So there's all kinds of plastic wrapping on the stairs that they've left, and also all kinds of dirt on the stairs that they've left. Now, that doesn't bother me so much, because the thing is, I'm not the one using the stairs. It's usually people that they visit or people that come to see them that are using the stairs, that are walking up and down using it. So if they suddenly find that the place is clean, they're going to know that it's not the upstairs neighbor who cleaned it. They're going to know it's me. And if there's anything like that doesn't look the way it's supposed to look, they're going to know that it's them. They're going to know it's not me, because they're familiar with them. The guests that come over here are familiar with my neighbors. So they know that if there's any mess left anywhere, it's going to be them that messed it up. And if there's any place that's clean, they're going to know it's me that cleaned it, because they're familiar with them. So that's why it doesn't really bother me that much. It would bother me a lot, like if I had company coming over constantly, but I don't have company coming over like that. And the only reason why I make sure I hoover the carpets and, you know, when I've been out, is because I don't want to bring any bed bugs back here. Because there was at one point I was going out almost every day for 3 weeks, and I was bringing a suitcase with me, and you know how a suitcase brings fucking germs, right? So the reason why I've been hoovering the stairs and stuff like that is because I didn't want to bring any bed bugs with me. And even though I could give a fuck about my neighbors, if I bring bed bugs back here, it's not just me that's affected. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's also the kids. It's also them that are affected if I bring bed bugs back here. So that's why I clean the stairs. It's got nothing to do with, you know, me maintaining some kind of personal image. I don't bring people back here. Like, there's only like a couple of people that I have around my house. So really, it just goes to show that they care more about racism and care more about hatred than they do about themselves. That's not a me problem, that's a them problem. One thing that they have also been doing, especially the adults, is when I've been asleep during the day, they've been screaming at the top of their lungs, like deliberately. And then when today, the mother walked past the door and she said, you know, she started screaming at the top of her lungs. And then she said in a soft voice, oh, she's sleeping in her own room, so it's fine. I'm thinking, what, the same room that you fucking flooded not too long ago? Like, after everything that's happened, we're still doing this? We're still doing this? Baby, you want me to sleep in the same room that you fucking flooded not too long ago? We're still doing that. My God, it has been how long? It will be 3 years in November. It will be 3 years in November that they've been doing the same shit, saying the same shit, and just banging on about the same shit. It is almost 3 years. At this point, I just have to assume that, like, the mother is being told to scream at the top of her lungs by my doorstep whilst talking about me sleeping in the same bedroom she fucking flooded. I have to, like, assume that that's what she's doing, that she's just being told to say that at this point, because all of this that's going on, it's just getting humiliating, isn't it? It's getting humiliating. It really is getting humiliating. That, you know, the attempts to debilitate me after my mum died, as if I'm really gonna care about, like, what the Gangstalkers are doing. Just because I mention it, it doesn't mean that I care that much. My mother had died. Like, there was no greater pain than that. So it's like, you know, the Gangstalkers debilitating me after my mum's death is trying to stop me from going back to Brighton before I find out that these people have been in my flat. That's pathetic, man. Like, at a certain point, you know, it really gets humiliating, and it doesn't get humiliating for me as a TI. Because let's be absolutely certain. The point is to be as stupid, draining, and vicious as possible to get a reaction out of TIs, or to embarrass TIs, or to humiliate TIs. But after a while, the Gangstalkers start to humiliate themselves. And the thing is, they humiliated themselves like almost 2 years ago. They humiliated themselves almost 2 years ago. It's going to be like this feud is going to be like 3 years in the making in November. They're already humiliating themselves. Like, what else needs to be said? Because the thing is, I still get gang stalked, but I haven't said much about my neighbours because, again, they're just humiliating themselves. Like, and there are other stalkers in Woodingdean just humiliating themselves. There was this one guy, a black gentleman with his mixed race kid, talking about, oh, we're hunting bad people. You sure, baby? If you were going to hunt bad people, you'd have to hunt the person in the mirror. Just delusional shit to convince themselves that they're not trafficking somebody that they don't know. Do you understand what I mean? It's humiliating. It's really humiliating. And again, it's not for targets. Like, it gets to a certain point now where I'm just embarrassed to look at. I'm embarrassed for the perps. I'm embarrassed to even look at them. And yeah, it's humiliating. It's just humiliating at this point. You know, I don't know, man. Like, it's just embarrassing. And also, there are so many things that connect all the way back to my first journey coming over to Brighton. But again, I'm going to need a couple of months to get all my information together before I tell you all what's going on. But it's interesting stuff. It's interesting stuff. So, I don't know if you guys have heard about AZ. I don't know if you guys have heard about AZ, but that's also something that you might want to look at. Something you might want to look at online. Let's just say a lot of the skeptics that have had their doubts, they're finally being validated. After God knows how many people were killed by AZ's lies. So, yeah. Serious shit. What else? Oh yeah, it's also occurred to me that a lot of TIs appear to be reporting. I say appear because you never know. You never know, because a lot of the TI community is infiltrated. There appear to be a lot of TIs who are experiencing being completely left alone. And I don't know where you experience that at, because as a TI, I've never experienced being left alone completely. So I have my doubts about that. I think it's just either wishful thinking or straight up lies, honestly. But I've experienced TIs being left completely alone with one thing or another. Either they're not being followed as much, or they're not suffering the same electronic torture that they once suffered. So it will be months of them not receiving the same torture that they usually receive, only to be like just bombarded with electronic weaponry, like months after the fact, months after it stopped, just bombarded with electronic weaponry, bombarded with electronic torture. And I think the reason this is happening is because of the same thing that I've said for years. I've said this for years. I've said this for almost a decade, right? When it comes to electronic torture, when it comes to any form of torture with regards to unlawful experimentees like us, right? You cannot keep the torture prolonged if you want the torture to have maximum effect. At some point, you've got to give it a break. At some point, you've got to give it a break. Give it some time to rest. because we've seen from oppressed people over the centuries that if you keep bombarding them with, with terror and with torture and with violence, at a certain point, you're going to be dealing with a bunch of people that are not afraid to die. And when you deal with a bunch of people that are not afraid to die, that's when you start to get resilience. That's when you start to have people who are productive in spite of the pain that they've gone through. That's when you start to get people who will rise to the ranks of success in spite of everything that you've put in front of them. That is what we've seen from oppressed peoples over and over again. The gangstalkers that are in charge of our cases, they are trying to avoid that. So they can't keep bombarding us with this. They can't keep bombarding us. At a certain point, they have to give us a break. And the reason they have to give us a break is to keep the torture fresh. Do you understand what I mean? They have to keep the torture fresh in a bid to keep us in pain and to keep the pain effective, keep us debilitated, keep us despondent. They can't do that if the torture is continuous, because at a certain point you just stop being scared of the pain and you start pushing through. Now, I have to admit, if my torture was more ferocious and, not to the point where I'd end up dead, but if my torture was more continuous and more ferocious than it was, I truly think I would have been more successful now than I am at the moment. And the reason I say that is for the exact same reason that if you keep continuously oppressing human beings, at a certain point, they won't be scared of death. And when you're not scared of death, you're not scared of life. That's the truth. When you're no longer scared of dying, you're no longer scared of living. You're no longer scared to do anything. All the fear is removed from you, because whilst you're going through certain types of pain and you're going through being debilitated, you realize there are fates worse than death, and you've lived through them all, or your generations upon generations of your family have lived through them all. So I believe that if I was to have the torture be continuous, I would have found a way through it eventually. When I've been particularly debilitated physically, that's when my mind became sharper. That's when I started to really put things together. When I was really sick mentally, I'm looking back at my videos, and when I was sick mentally, that was when I was at my absolute sharpest. That's when I was at my most calculating. That's when I was at my most, unfuckwithable. You can't get me in an argument. When I'm in my manic phase, you can't fucking argue with me, because what my manic phase will have me doing is it will have me researching, it will have me studying, it will have me working through all kinds of plan B, it will have me prepared for eventualities. So I feel like I would have been sicker if I was to have continuous torture. That's without a shadow of a doubt. But I also would have been a lot more successful. And I know that. I have to admit that. If I went through more pain at the hands of this stalking, I would have been a lot more successful. Because people seem to like it when I'm in pain. I have more views on my YouTube when I'm in pain. Check the numbers on my social media. Every single time I've had my back out, or I've had an episode or something like that, I have always gotten more views. Every time my gang stalking has gotten particularly bad and I have evidence for everything that I'm talking about, that's when my views go up. Pain is the key to my success. Even death is the key to my success. Look at everything that's happened since my mum died. And no, that's not me trying to brag about it, but it's just a fact. It's just a fact of the matter. Like, look at everything that's happened since I've suffered pain, since I've suffered death, since I've suffered debilitation at random moments or at convenient moments. Look at what's happened. Look at what's happened. I've got, it's not even me that has the perps humiliating themselves. The perps are humiliating themselves of their own accord now. And if I was to be put through pain every single day of my life, like the most pain every single day of my life, their humiliation would have gotten even worse. Do you understand what I'm saying? Their humiliation would have gotten even worse. That's just the way it is, man. That's just the way it is. So they got to keep the torture fresh. They got to keep the torture fresh. And rest in peace to my mum. I meant no disrespect, but it's just the truth. If people like me when I'm in pain, that means I can turn my pain into my business. I can turn it into a business venture. I can turn my pain into something that's profitable, something that's lucrative. Because people like it when I'm in pain, even people who claim to like me. I can turn that into something that I can use. And even if you couldn't, once you go through a certain pain barrier, once you pass that pain barrier and you're used to suffering at an obscene level, what is there left to talk about? Nobody's going to want to talk about the same thing. So you might as well get on with your life. They can't, again, the Gangstalkers cannot have that. So they make sure they back off and leave you alone at certain instances. That's why they have quiet periods. Sometimes those quiet periods go on for months to lull you into a false sense of security so that they can turn around and cause you more pain when they decide to start back up. Because they know it's more painful to have a good situation and then be brought back into a bad situation than it is to continuously be in a bad situation. They know that. That's why they do it. So yeah, there's your answer, TIs. If you found that you've been, for the lucky few that have been getting a break from this, it's only a break. It's only a break. It's not permanent. They're going to start up with some other nonsense. They usually do. They're going to start up with some other nonsense. They always do. They always do. So my advice to any TIs that seem to be going through a quiet period, don't trust to hope. Just get on with your life. Do as much as you can while you're in that quiet period. And then prepare yourself for when they talk to you again, so that you know what to do in that situation. And the one advantage that the perps have over us is that they know when they're going to do something. We don't know when they're going to do something. We know what they're going to do. We know what they're going to do. That much is as fucking predictable. But as for when they're going to do it, we're in the dark. Because if we don't even know, if a lot of us don't even know who our handlers are, then how are we going to know when they're going to do something to us? We're not going to know when. We're not going to know when. Do you understand what I mean? So it's important not to get your hopes up when it comes to this program. It's important not to. I'm trying to think if there's something else I needed to say. I think I've said it all. Again, be on the lookout for that video in July. It's going to be my 4th anniversary since coming to Brighton. So be on the lookout for that, and I will see you guys shortly. That's making a lot of noise in the background. So I will see you guys shortly. Peace and blessings. I love you guys so much. I will leave the links to that article that I was talking about earlier, and I will leave the link to my website. Peace and blessings. Bye bye.